Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
Financial Survival Network is presented to you by Regal Assets. Buy and sell physical gold and silver through your existing retirement plan, 100% tax-free with Regal Assets. If you want to include physical gold or silver in your existing IRA or old 401k, request your free investment kit, which was recently featured in the Forbes and Smart Money Wall Street Journal magazines. Call toll-free 855-678-6620, 855-678-6620, or visit regalassets.com.
With us today is Carrie Lutz from the Financial Survival Network. Thanks for being here, Carrie.
Hey, great to be here again with you, Elijah. You're doing great work, and it's definitely getting noticed out there.
Well, thank you so much. And I wanted to talk to you today about QE3. Last time we had you on, we were talking about the possibility of QE3, and now it's been announced, and it's more like QE to infinity because there's no specified end date. But what's your take on this?
Well, it was inevitable because as long as the country is running trillion-dollar deficits, where's the money going to come from? There's not enough money in the world from all of our trading partners, both friendly and unfriendly, to buy that debt. So obviously, the Federal Reserve has to print it up out of thin air. And like I say, no shock here. It's just they put it off as long as they possibly could, but eventually it came to crunch time. There's no other way to finance the deficit. And not to mention, the banks were probably on the brink of collapse yet again. So this is a bank bailout as well.
I definitely agree. I personally was not thinking they were going to actually call it QE3, but they did. So what's your take on how precious metals have been reacting? They basically went up when QE3 was announced, but now they've basically leveled off. What's your take on this?
Yeah, well, the key is not to become short-term trading obsessed with the metals, okay? As your frequent guest, Andy Hoffman over at milesfranklin.com says, the short-term numbers, gyrations mean absolutely nothing. What we're talking about here is a longer-term trend, and we're talking about an insurance policy to protect your wealth, to ensure that whatever happens to the currency, you're still going to have some wealth intact and live to fight another day.
Definitely. And how much of what is happening to the precious metal prices right now do you think is because of the market rigging? And do you think if it wasn't for the market rigging, gold and silver would have skyrocketed because of the QE3 announcement?
I think there's a very good possibility of that. As Andy and I said last time we spoke, we no longer have markets. We just have propaganda indices. And what you're seeing here is the employment number at 7.8%, unemployment number fraudulent to the core. What you're seeing, the stock market being held up by constant, nonstop manipulation, probably by the president's working group on financial markets, market after market. I mean, no other market is rigged like the Treasury market because you've got the Fed buying the stuff up, setting the rates, and all of this is going on not in a vacuum. So there's no markets that are not rigged. So what the price of gold or silver should be, I can't say, but certainly it should be higher. And, obviously these markets have been rigged for many, many years. And the proof, if you needed proof, the proof is always out there. And we've seen it with the GATA lawsuit and everything else.
So some viewers submitted some questions for you, and kind of on the topic of the market rigging, Edward Wills is wondering, what finally woke you up and what was your aha moment?
Well, my case is a little bit different, I would say, than most because, I went to school in the 70s, went to college in the late 70s, and the market was different then. I mean, there was still plenty of rigging going on. Don't get me wrong. They had been rigging the price of gold and silver. You had the whole hunt debacle, but I got there really through education more than anything else. Um, I felt there was something wrong with the system. And while I was in college, Milton Friedman and his wife, Anna Schwartz, I guess it was, or she wasn't his wife. I don't remember his wife's name, but they did a special called Free to Choose. And at that point, I was kind of undecided about what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I saw this show and I said, I want to be an economist because basically they examined places like Hong Kong, which had no natural resources and yet was thriving largely due to free market policies. And from there, I read Ludwig von Mises, Human Action, his magnum opus, which back then we didn't have hyperlinks and we didn't have dictionaries online. So I literally read 1,200 or 1,400 pages with a dictionary next to me. And there were words like praxeology that I had no idea what they meant. But after I read it, it kind of sank in. And then I read Murray Rothbard's extensive works and Percy Greaves, who were kind of like his interpreters. And it all made sense that sound money, the free market, all made sense. And then I was watching gold and silver escalate ever higher in the late 70s and early 80s, and I just knew it made sense. Then Volcker came in, he raised the rates to 20 something percent, and we had a big recession, but then eventually Reagan came in and the economy started growing again. So I figured, well, maybe the Austrians don't know it all. Maybe they're not right, but I always had that knowledge in there and I always had a predisposition to free markets. And then 2007 hit, 2006 actually, and I was in Vegas and I looked around and saw all the interest-free, interest-only mortgages. And I said to my partners, the real estate boom is over. And then in '07 it died. In '08 and '09 we had the fallout. So a roundabout answer, but I kind of was primed for this back in college.
Okay, so this one is from Mr. Live Positive 8. Do you expect the USA government to confiscate or significantly tax capital gains on precious metals?
That certainly is a possibility. But, we have these things called black markets. So maybe you're not going to take your silver down to the supermarket to buy food, but maybe you're going to trade your silver for whatever script the government is using to then buy it. But there is no way that the country will abide by confiscation or these huge capital gains. I mean, technically, you're supposed to pay a capital gain every time you sell an ounce of gold. The interesting thing is, I don't know anybody, uh, virtually no one that I know, that has sold gold or silver for years. So the concept of the capital gain on your bullion is really alien to many of the current bullion investors out there.
I'm not sure if the next viewer's question is for real or not, but it reads, what advice would you give to a lottery jackpot winner at this time?
That's a funny question. Well, first of all, let me make emphatically clear that I'm not a financial advisor, a CFA, chartered financial advisor, personal financial advisor. So don't listen to anything I say. Can't give any personal advice. And having written enough private placement memorandums, it's like you pretty much say, if you listen to me, you'll almost definitely lose your money, and you'd have to be an idiot to take my advice. But if you do, here's what I would say. And basically, stock up on some metals, stock up on food, find a good place. This is what I would do, I should say. I'm not advising anybody else. Had I won the lottery, the mega, whatever, I'd be finding a place in a good community with solid roots, with ample supplies of food. I'd be putting it into metals and arranging for storage of those metals in different facilities around the planet. And I'd be digging in and getting ready because, look, maybe the thing won't collapse. Maybe it'll go on forever. Maybe it's going to be a perfect world and everything's going to work out fine. But on the offhand chance that it's not, which it certainly looks like to me it's not, then I would want to be prepared for whatever was coming down the road.
On the topic of where to store your precious metals, the same viewer is wondering, if I am a U.S. citizen and do not expect to leave the USA, would it be unwise to store precious metals out of the USA?
It can't hurt in certain places. I don't think I'd be storing them in the Far East. Perhaps Australia might be good. Perth Mint's got some good programs. Uh, but the majority of it you really want to have close to where you can lay your hands on it. That's my personal view. And well, it doesn't have to be in your house, and it's preferable that it's not. It should be in a place that's accessible and easy to get to should you need it.
I definitely agree. And the next viewer's question is, would using leverage for real estate be a good move at this time? Something Ken McElroy and Robert Kiyosaki still say they are doing as much as they can.
Yeah, well, you have to look at what's going to come down the road here, what's going to happen, which nobody knows. But at the very least, we're going to have higher rates of inflation. So if you can buy a piece of real estate, if one came to my attention that had a positive cash flow, required very little down payment on it, and would, multifamily housing and such, I think it's a good idea. The other exception would be if you're looking for a home and you want to buy a multifamily, like a 3 or 4 family, where you get to live there pretty much for free based on the cash flow. But you have to be able to carry these properties if things go bad, because the individual, unlike Robert Kiyosaki and his associate there, they get non-recourse funding. The individual can't get that, which means that you're liable for every dime that you borrow. So generally, I'd say probably a good investment, because inflation is going to go up. I don't think there's any question. But you need to be very selective where you buy it and make sure that you'll have adequate tenants, and go for income producing property, because buying a house right now, probably, depending. I mean, there's different theories about it. So, you know, income producing property, if you can pull it off, could be very good, because if we hyperinflate, you might wind up with it with no mortgage on it. Never know.
So moving on, the next question is kind of long. It's from I'm Contraire. Does Carrie think this strategy is wise given our current circumstances? I'm thinking of cashing out about $12,000 of my 401k and adding about $12,000 to purchase a house on 10 acres in a small town as a plan B to escape the masses and chaos to follow. I may go ahead and retire on $1,400 a month. Is this a better strategy than just investing in silver and gold and staying put in a large city?
Well, I mean, you have to decide those issues of where you want to live for yourself. And I would say, for my own personal preference, I would avoid buying any real estate to live in. However, if it's cheap enough and it's self-sufficient, you have no debt service, well, I might consider it then. But to go pulling money out of my 401k, for that, I think that what happens, and I've had Bob Hoy on a number of times, who's studied every economic cycle since the 1600s, when you have a credit bust, which is what we've been going through since 2007, 2008, the real purchasing power of gold and silver increases, right? And I don't know that the real value of real estate is going to go up, even if it is your readout where you're going to hide out and wait for the everything to hit the fan. You might be able to buy rent something there, or buy something closer by, because 10 acres so you could grow your own food. But you know what? Do you really want to be growing your own food? Are you qualified to do it? All these things you have to think about. So can't give the advice to that person. But for myself, I would think very hard and long before going to buy real estate of any description, unless I can make money off of it, derive a positive cash flow.
Great. So that was the last viewer's question, and thank you so much, Carrie, for answering them. And is there anything else you'd like to add before we let you go?
Yeah, just that it's getting really interesting. The The whole system is just really stretched. It could collapse tomorrow, though I doubt it. But you need to be aware that if you're like me, you make your plans, and then if something happens, you're prepared. It's always better to be prepared with the wrong plan than be unprepared with no plan.
So if our viewers want to find out more, they can go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. And thank you so much for being here, Kerry.
Hey, well, it's been a pleasure. Yeah, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. All my interviews are there. A lot of great aggregated articles. We've got hundreds of articles a week going up there that you should really take a look at.
Terrific. Thanks again.
Take care.